Hey, Homebrewers, Ryan here. For this Homebrew Wednesday episode, I figured I'd kind of go over the beers I brewed in 2011, kind of talk about them real quick, and then what my plans are going to be here for 2012. So no beer reviewing or any of that. Just have my my book that I keep track of all my beers, recipes, and notes and stuff from brew days. So I started out in January brewing up my No More Black Imperial Stout. First ever Imperial Stout. Thought it came out pretty good. Really good, actually. I thought it came out really good. But some slight tweaks I'm going to make to that. Might brew it again this year. February was what I called my experimental pale ale, which was just, I don't know. Just kind of threw in some stuff, and for some reason that beer turned out weird. There's some weird character in there I couldn't quite figure out. I don't know if it was the hops or just that I used wasn't very good. I'm not sure what I did. I didn't dry hop it, so that probably didn't help. Next up was a Starvinia Brown Ale. I brewed that for the SJ Pour Base Malt Challenge. I thought that came out pretty good. Had really good hop character, fresh, good amount of bitterness, and then it kind of mellowed out and settled down real nicely. Malt started coming through more, some more hop flavors. I enjoyed that one, other than it being overcarbonated. That was my big issue on that one. April was Gargantuan Gargoyle Ale. That was a sort of hybrid IPA pale ale. It attenuated better than I thought it would. And the malt bill is loosely based on, I believe, Stone's Pale Ale. Hops-wise, I just used a bunch of stuff. I don't think it quite worked hop-wise. It was actually a pretty tasty beer, though. In June, I brewed up Peat Monster Scotch Ale. That was for Jameson's Big Beer Challenge. So I thought that beer came out excellent. Fresh, was really oaky, really peaty. I mean, I used the smoked malt, the peated malt in there. Aged it on oak chips and oak cubes with some, what I use, Finlagen Scotch. And that still is drinking great. It's aging wonderfully. I did my Ace Saison in July. I thought for a first Saison, it came out really well considering I used the infamous White Labs 565, or Y yeast, it's the 3722, I think. Anyway, that yeast is known for stalling, but I threw it in my garage and that thing finished out. Such that next time I brew it, I'm going to use less malt, because I think it ended up being around 7%. Actually, that's not too bad. Maybe I'll keep that. I thought it was higher for some reason. Next time, I was supposed to use Sriracha Ace, and I didn't have as much Sriracha Ace as I thought I did to finish off the beer. So I didn't get a lot of hop flavor as much as I wanted on that one. Then also, very in July, I brewed up a wit beer, my first ever wit beer. Did this sort of, San Diego West Coast take by adding Cascade along with traditional Saaz hops. Used fresh homegrown coriander seeds, so that really gave that beer amazing character that I've never had in any other wit beer. I just wish I would have used some fresh orange peel or zest, which I'll probably do next time, but that turned out really good. For the brew day went terrible for that one. Didn't hit my temperatures. Wanted to do a step mash. But I thought that beer came out really, really nice, especially for a first wit beer. September was a single hop challenge beer. I did the Motueka, whatever the hell you pronounce that. Beer came out really nice. Just wish I used more hops, especially dry hopping. Thought I could have used more. September, I did my Kiwi IPA. So all New Zealand hop IPA. Probably one of the best IPAs I've ever brewed, or beers period that I've brewed. First time I used the White Lab San Diego Super Yeast. That worked well, although it smelled really weird as the fermentation winded down. But it cleared out. Used a ton of hops, 6 different varieties. Dry hopped it with 5 of the varieties. I wish I just would have dry hopped it maybe a touch more. Other than that, love that recipe. It ended up being 6.3%, so I mean, perfect for like sessionable IPA. Man, that was great. October, I did my oatmeal brown porter, just sort of real throw together recipe, just to kind of see what would happen. I just thought I could use some roasted malt in there. And I didn't get. That was another disaster brew day where my manifold fell apart, so I didn't get the efficiency that I wanted. So I mean, it should have been. It was like 4%. It should have been closer to 5%. And just need to up the darker malts. I think the base malt kind of was fine with the Maris Otter and brown malt, but I think I want to throw in some roasted barley for one, and then up the quantities of some of the other ones. I think that one will be a pretty nice sessionable porter. Maybe change the yeast on it. Let's see. The second to last beer was the Court of Kate, which was my loosely based on Kate the Great from Portsmouth Russian Imperial Stout. Really loosely based. Most of the malts they use are kind of in there. I added some of my own and then changed up the hop schedule. Other than that, I think it's more or less kind of what they're going for. That's still in secondary right now. Tasting great. Going to add some vanilla bean and oak chips to that very shortly. The last beer of the year was my Oak Grove barley wine. That beer, we'll see. First ever barley wine. Sort of went English style with the malt build, but then I hopped it to like 80 IBUs with Chinook and Cascade, so classic American hot varieties. Got a little low on the efficiency, and that one it was really cold at nights here, so I couldn't use my garage and my freezer to ferment in because I don't have a heating source on that thing yet. I need to get it so I can heat it and cool it. Obviously, it can cool with the freezer, but I need something to heat up in there. So that one kind of just fermented in my house, which has been really cold, like mid-50s most of the time that beer was in primary fermentation. So it's still sitting in primary, and that will be going into my 2012 goals. It's going to be the first beer going into my 5-gallon brand new oak barrel. So I might see how much I have left over after the barrel. Hopefully I have a little bit of beer left and maybe bottle, get a couple bottles worth of it so I know what it tastes like before, fully carbonated before it goes in the oak barrel. But that was definitely going in the oak barrel. That's my first goal, was to get a beer in there. My second goal is to actually rebrew a recipe. I've never done that. I've always brewed a different recipe every time because I'm interested in different styles or different takes on different styles. So I want to rebrew a recipe. Probably going to be my No More Black Imperial Stout. Something I am going to tweak it a little bit just because I think the flavor profile needs to be changed slightly. But third goal, I want to do some kind of sour/wild ale. Now, there's a couple mashing methods, like turbine mashing, and there's even just a ramp temperature mash, all kinds of techniques for sours. But I've been doing a little bit of reading on them, trying to figure out ideas of what kind of yeast I want to use to ferment it mostly out with. Do I want to do an all Brett, yeast, like a couple different Brett strains in there? Let it try to, really slowly ferment out, or do I want to use something like a White Labs 01 just to get it really low and then let the Brett take over, plus add in all the other bugs and critters to sour it, PDO and lacto. Probably do a sour starter for that. Probably take the dregs out of a bottle of Sanctification from Russian River. Really like the character they got on that one, so maybe that, maybe even mix it in with another Russian River dregs and try to come up with some combination of that. Lastly, I finally got a tracking number on my new brew kettle, so I ended up buying a 15-gallon pot from behemoth.com. It's the Penrose kettle. I just want a bigger pot just for more flexibility, potentially doing a larger batch and splitting it up, or just not having to worry about boil overs. Especially if you're going to do like a long boil and you want to collect a lot of wort and boil it down really good and have a really aggressive boil. So that'll give me a little more room to work with. My current kettle is probably more around 8 gallons, maybe a touch over 8. So I'm going to pretty much almost double my capacity for that. So that's it for sort of a recap and my early goals for 2012. So I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.